Welcome to Enjoy the Journey podcast, where we interview expert entrepreneurs and thought leaders to help guide you in pursuit of financial freedom. Presented to you by Jackson Milan, the Wealth Mentor, where we help service-based business owners remove cash flow bottlenecks, maximize their profits, and turn business profits into personal wealth. G'day guys, Jackson Milan, the Wealth Mentor here, and we're here for another episode of the Enjoy the Journey podcast. I've got a really great guest here today, Jim Adams from the Masters of Fitness Business podcast. Jim and I connected recently, hit it off and had some great conversations and figured we'd use each other's platforms to spread awareness and help more people in the fitness space create great businesses that allow them to really be the master of their own destiny and be able to create the business of their dreams, but also use that as a way for them to create their dream life too. So really looking forward for Jim to share some of his wisdom. He's been on an amazing journey. He's got some great projects in the works to support fitness businesses around the world, and I'm looking forward to doing a deep dive. So Jim, thanks for joining us, mate. How's things with you?
It's good. Thanks for having me on, Jackson. I really appreciate it, man. It was great having you on my show.
Yeah, it was a great conversation. I'm looking forward to continuing, mate, because I'm sure we could have spoken all day. But Jim, whereabouts are you based? Where are you in the world?
I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, which is, if you look at the map of the United States and go right dead in the middle, that's where I am. I'm dead smack in the middle of the country.
Fantastic, mate. Beautiful. Now, Jim, I'd love to hear a little bit about you and what you do. So tell us a little bit about your story.
What I do is I own a personal training studio here in St. Louis, about 3,000 square feet. We do small group personal training. I do the podcast. I've been doing that for about 5 years now. Fit University online here in April 20th. It goes live. So I was an athlete in high school. I wrestled, I ran track, but I just hated the weight room. I didn't know what to do in the weight rooms back then when I was in high school. I tell people I ate lunch with Jesus. That's how long ago I went to high school. But yeah, the weight rooms were a bit different. Lots of nautical, selectorized, like old school machinery that I just didn't know how to operate. I just never went in the weight room. And then when I was graduated high school, I was on a hayride with my buddy Frank, and we were goofing around and I fell off the wagon and it ran over me. I got run over by a hay wagon with about 20 people on it. It hurt me pretty bad. I mean, to the point where I actually died for a little bit. So I had a near-death experience. I don't call it a near-death experience. I just call it a death experience. There's something after this plane of existence. There is some sort of deity, and there's other spirits and souls waiting to be reunited with me. So, because I was able to experience all that. And one of the most surprising things about the whole experience, I mean, it's important to note that I saw all of these things, but not with my eyes, which is hard to explain, but I could literally see them, even though I wasn't using my eyes. So when I was ascending, I was aware of specific individuals. It was just based on the energy they were giving off. And I wasn't aware that they were there. And later on, when I came to, when I was in the intensive care unit, I was asking, was so-and-so here? They were all here. And I was able to recognize individuals that were there just by, now when people say, oh, people give off energy or bad energy, it's absolutely 100. I believe in that 100%. It does matter what energy you bring to the table. And I find that energy usually generates from your soul if you're listening. All I know is that I woke up with a sense of purpose. I was no longer afraid of death. So a lot of the fear in my life disappeared. I was surprised by how much fear was holding me back when it wasn't there. I wasn't afraid to do certain things or try certain things or try to achieve certain goals. So, and that's part of your immune system. So they said my immune system will be compromised. I lost like 20 pounds and I was pretty thin to begin with because like I said, I wasn't weight training. I think I was like 6'2", maybe 140 when I came out of the hospital.
Yeah, wow.
And I just felt frail and weak. And they gave me a medical alert bracelet saying that I had this compromised immune system. And they were just painting this picture that I was going to be this kind of feeble, sickly person. And I just basically said, fuck you, the fuck I am. I am not going to be that person. And I just made up my mind that I wasn't going to be that person. And so that's when I started training. It was pretty remedial. I mean, I was in the basement of my mom's house with the concrete weight set, the Joe Weider weight set. And I was borrowing routines out of Muscle and Fitness. in Flex magazine, Iron Man magazine. I started buying all those magazines, and then I started bodybuilding. I was still in college I was actually going for social work. I got a degree in social work. And then an old girlfriend of mine said, this guy's opening up a personal training studio, which at the time, we're talking 1990, which at the time was a novelty. When he opened it up, he was one of two studios. We were the second personal training studio in St. Louis to open just as a personal training studio. There was personal training, but they were attached to big box gyms. Nobody had opened up a studio. So I jumped on board with him, and it was him, his partner, and myself and one other trainer. So four of us in about 1,500 square feet. I don't know what that translates to meters. What is that, about 700 meters maybe? I stayed there for 22 years. I became the general manager. When I left, we had a 17,000 square foot facility for personal training only. It's probably the best personal training facility in St. Louis, to be honest with you. And we had over 30 trainers. But I just kept trying to incorporate myself into the business, and I kept my head against the wall. And I wanted to try out this small group concept. This was 2013. So I left and went out on my own. I took about 20 of my clients with me, and I rented space in this room. It was basically a room. It was 1,000 square foot room. And I said, let me give this small group thing a go. And it took off to the point where I was crowding the guy who owned the studio out. So he raised my rent 300%. And I said, well, I guess you don't want me here anymore. He goes, oh, no, I want you. And I said, no, when you raise somebody's rent 300%, it's a clear signal that you don't want. So I saw the handwriting on the wall. So then I started looking, and I ideally wanted about like a 700 meter space, but I couldn't find one. The smallest I could find was about 1,500 meters. So I knew then that if I opened that, I was going to have employees, and I wanted to have employees. Because I wanted everybody kind of under the same banner. I didn't want independent contractors where it becomes an adversarial atmosphere. So then that's when I ran into Thomas Plummer, went to his one-day business workshop, and it was like I would say a splash of cold water is more like a smack in the face, really. If you've ever seen Thomas Plummer, you know what I'm talking about. He doesn't pull any punches. But I mean, he gives it to you straight, which is what you want. So I changed a few things based on his recommendation. He was my first mentor, really. And then he helped me open the business, get it open. And that's when I found out that being a good trainer was enough. I was a great trainer, but I was a terrible business owner. I didn't have the skill set that I needed to be a good business owner. So I went about acquiring that skill set. And the first thing I did was join a mastermind group. I run into Frank Nash at one of Thomas Plummer's workshops, and we had become friendly. And then so he was starting a mastermind called Secret Trainer Society, him and Rick Mayo. Joining that mastermind group turned my business around, hanging around this group of owners.
And it's about that proximity, right, Jim? Like, it's about the people that you surround yourself with that ultimately rises you up. I want to backtrack a little bit here, Jim, because you hear a lot of people who have these either near death or these death experiences, as you say, whether it be themselves directly or someone around them. And I had a similar experience when my father passed away. I think that when my father passed away, it was definitely a catalyst for me to take life a whole lot more serious and to pursue a higher game, a higher level. There's many people who talk about the kind of this life after death. And you were talking about this ascension that you were making. Do you feel that you had a choice to come back, or do you think that was fate for you to come back?
No, I was told that it was not my time. And then next thing I know, I was waking up in the intensive care.
Wow. And do you think that moment had a lot to do with your alignment with purpose and this kind of newfound perspective on the world?
No question. No question. Because it made me realize that time is precious, man. That experience, I didn't have time to think about all the things I didn't do. I was just worried about dying. I remember when they were rolling me into the operating room, I thought then, oh man, I'm not ready. There's so many things that I want to do. I've been wanting to start my own business, do all these things, and I haven't done any of it. Like, I'm not ready. And so when I survived that scare, I made up my mind that next time comes around, I want to be ready. And that means like living life to the fullest. And I just knew that I had to find a purpose in this life. And I knew that life was precious and that death is pleasant. So like now when I go to when a loved one pass, I'm actually happy. I'm sad for the people they leave
Sure.
behind because those are the ones that are still in pain.
Of course.
Um, but yeah, it just, I knew that I had to have a sense of purpose. I knew that I couldn't let fear hold me back. And I knew that I had to take control of my life.
And I agree. I think there's so many people that go through the world as being a passenger seat in their own vehicle of life,
Hmm.
and you need to get in that driver's seat. And you need to take control, and it's so critical that people just don't realize that we're all on borrowed time. Tomorrow's not
Right,
promised. You've only got right
right.
now. And Jim, let's talk about the business, right? How do you
Hmm.
feel that being in the fitness space has helped you align with your purpose? Like, why fitness of all things?
Personally, fitness was a way for me to feel powerful, for me to feel like I had some kind of control over my life and I could navigate that path myself. Fitness really changed my life. I went from this skinny, scrawny kid to bodybuilder. It really helped me feel empowered in all areas of my life and increase my confidence. And so I wanted to be able to give that to other people, give them some kind of empowerment in their lives to do whatever they need to do. Because everybody talks about work life balance. And first of all, I believe that balance is dynamic, right? It's not a static thing. Like when you see the guy walking across the tightrope, he's standing still, but that little pole of his is working, right? And so there are times when you need to spend more time at work. There are times when you need to spend more time at home, and it kind of flows back and forth if you want to be in balance. And so I believe there is no work balance. It's all your life. If you're working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, that's your life. So is that what you want your life to be? Work? Probably not. You probably want a little bit more in there.
Of course, and this is about having that balance. That balance is so important.
Hmm.
So, Jim, you've touched on this before, and I've seen this trap a lot of the time. Like, and it doesn't just happen in the fitness space; it happens in a lot of industries. That people think that just because they're good technicians, they're going to run a good business. And you see a
Hmm.
lot of fit pros that end up going out and getting all of the accolades and all of the training to be better trainers, and
Hmm.
they could be world class, but they can
Hmm.
really suck at business and they can really struggle. What was that
Hmm.
kind of turning point for you where you realized that just being a good trainer wasn't going to be enough to run a good business?
When I was sitting in the office of my club looking at my bank account. Honestly, and payroll was coming up, and I'm like, "Hey, this isn't going to cut it. I need to do something more here. I need to up my skill set. I mean, so that was the bottom line. Is like if I didn't make that change, if I didn't work to acquire that skill set of a business owner, I would be out of business. And especially now coming out through COVID, there's a lot of guys who were in my shoes that are people, trainers, fit pros that don't have shops anymore. They're looking for work more now more than ever. You have to have that business know-how.
Yeah, I think that's so important. So, what do you think were the most critical things that you needed to learn that allowed you to turn that corner and then actually start having, like, realizing your success in business?
The biggest thing was a mindset shift that it was not about me, it was about my clients. First of all, I had to decide who was my client? Who am I going after? Because when they first asked me that question, I hired a lady to help me with branding and marketing. And she said, "Well, who's your demographic?" And I said, "Everybody." She's like, "I got some work to do here, brother." So then we had to sit down and nail down my demographic. And then once we did that, then I had to understand that I had to market to that demographic. I had to market, and thinking of money from a marketing spend, lifetime client value standpoint was a mental shift for me. But then I had to get into the mindset of that client and show them what I can do for them, not necessarily what I've done for myself, because people don't care. I mean, yeah, they might care if I'm sitting there shirtless with a six-pack abs. Come train with me. For those people who are 100 pounds overweight or never set foot in the gym, they're
They're
like,
not interested in that.
no,
They're
no,
intimidated.
thank you.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, thank you. So I was actually driving, the people I wanted to help away because I didn't have the right mindset. So had to think that it's not about me, it's about helping people. And then I have to get that message out to that people so that and then send out a message that resonates with them. And then the same thing when they come in, the service delivery has to be built around the client, whoever I'm going after. I think you have to know who your demographic is. and nail it down, be specific as possible, and then you have to market to those people. And marketing to me was a big mystery because I didn't understand marketing spend. One of the guys in the mastermind, Tim Lyons, he runs a digital marketing firm for fitness businesses, and he said, "Well, your typical ad spend should be $3,000 a month." And I'm like, whoa, dude, that's a lot of money. To a trainer,
Of
that's a
course,
lot of
it's a
fucking
lot of
money,
money.
right? So I'm like, oh, and then he started explaining the lifetime value of a client. He said, well, your middle ground membership, what's that? I said, it's $350 a month. He goes, okay, so let's just say you spend $3,000 on ads and you get one client signing up for $350 a month. If that client signs an annual contract, so that's $5,000 a year for $3,000. So you're $2,000 in the black. And so when he explained it to me like that, then it made a lot more
I
sense.
get
It's
it.
like, oh, okay, I get it. So if I spend $3,000 and I get 5 new clients, well, let's keep this ad rolling until it stops working. Because I was thinking small, I wasn't thinking big enough. And that was the other thing is that then I didn't have systems. When I hired a trainer, I just said, follow me around. I had systems, but I didn't write them down. I had them just in my head. And so I would have this trainer follow me for a couple of weeks and then let him go. And then I was like, oh, this guy's terrible. He's not doing
Got
anything that
no
I
idea.
told him to
Yeah.
do. Yeah. Like, oh, he's terrible. He's not doing it. And then I would jump in. Instead of training him or teaching him, I would just jump in and take over. Well, the problem with that then is that I became the bottleneck in my business because I had to do everything because if you want it done right,
You got to do it
So,
yourself, right?
but yeah, but then I was grinding myself into the ground and I was the bottleneck. I couldn't grow the business because there's only so much time in the day for me to do stuff. Just learning about systems and training people the systems so that I can begin to really scale the business and grow. So it really started with that mental shift. Okay, this is my business and I can make it all about me. I won't make any money. I won't create the lifestyle that I want. I can make it about the clients and helping people and then create systems and scale it. Then the businesses can start working for me instead of me always working on the business, being a slave to the business.
I love that. And look, I think one of the key parts here, Jim, like there's a lot of trainers out there that are fearful of marketing because they think it's too expensive and they're trying to run all these sexy funnels and crazy
Mm-hmm.
marketing strategies that are being taught these days. But fundamentally, it comes down to knowing your numbers. If you're
Mm-hmm.
doing marketing activity in your business from a position of fear and scarcity, you're like, oh, I can't afford to spend 3,000 a month. Like that's preposterous. Or
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to focus on spending the least amount of money that you possibly can in order to acquire a client. You're probably not
Mm-hmm.
growing your business properly. And
Right.
do you feel that like knowing the numbers of having that kind of epiphany moment of saying, hey, if I spend 3, I might be able to pull out 5, or if I spend 3, I might be able to pull out 10. Having that clarity around that cost benefit of investing in marketing as opposed to just spending on marketing and taking a leap of faith. How important do you feel that was in terms of you nailing that code?
Oh, it's huge. If you take a step back when it comes to marketing spend, absolutely. I used to think that I was doing a pretty good job because I was getting a lot of referrals. But referrals are slam dunk, right? They're coming from one of your existing clients. They've already got the know, like, and trust endorsement from their friend. So when they come in, they just need you to not be a jerk
Yeah,
and they'll sign up.
exactly.
So if the majority of your clients are coming from referrals, then you really don't have a marketing program. So you have to have a marketing program, and then you have to have a system to follow that up. Because what you said was that everybody's looking for that magic bullet, that secret sauce, that one little trick that will turn their business around. And let me tell you right here, right now, it does not exist. It doesn't exist. It's just hard work. Everybody wants the sexy parts, but you got to do some hard work to get to those sexy parts. And hard work isn't sexy, man.
Yeah,
Plunging toilets when it's stopped up, it's not. And it's some of the things you have to do as an owner, right?
exactly.
So yeah, so it's not sexy. So it's just hard work. So it's being smart with your marketing and realizing that maybe your first campaign, especially if you're running itself, probably isn't going to be really successful. And it's not that the campaign or marketing doesn't work. It's just that you don't have any experience in running. You don't know what works and what not, what doesn't work. And that's where the numbers come in. You have your number of leads, you have your number of appointments booked, and then you have your close, your sales, right? Those should be your metrics. You should track where those leads are coming in from, and then that can tell you what quality those leads are. Like for us on our website, we get the two biggest leads we get through on our website is one, a pricing inquiry, and two, like, let's get started, I'm ready to go. We have a higher conversion rate than the pricing ones because those guys are just kicking the tires.
Yeah.
So it's a lower quality lead. But if you don't keep your numbers, you don't know that. So it's very, very important. You got to realize, it's like I take jujitsu. So I tell people a black belt and a white belt can do the exact same move, but the black belt's going to be a lot better at it. Why? Reps, 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 reps,
Done that
reps.
10,000 times.
Exactly. So it's the same thing with your marketing, especially if you're trying to run it yourself. The first time you run it, it's not going to be good. And so a lot of people want to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, oh, this doesn't work. No, it works, but you just have to find out how to tweak it so that it works for you. And a lot of people don't have that patience or have that big picture vision, down the road. They're not playing the long game with it. And you have to play the long game. And then once you get the leads, you have to have a system to follow up with them, drip campaigns, all of that stuff, to book appointments, and then out of those appointments, you better have a sales system, script, whatever you want to call it, to close the sale. And then you track those numbers, and then you can see where you're weak, and then you can focus on that, or you can see where you can tweak, and then focus on that so that you can increase your overall numbers.
I love that. It's so important, mate. And it's good to know that you're a jiu-jitsu practitioner as well. So am I. Been training for
Oh,
on and
no
off for
kidding.
about 8 years.
No kidding.
It's one of these things. Like business and jiu-jitsu have so many similarities. They're
I
both the
agree.
most difficult thing you'll ever do in your life, but nothing fills
Yes,
you with more joy.
absolutely.
So I
Yeah,
love
I've
it.
never been happier getting my ass handed to me.
100%. I
That's
know exactly how
great.
you feel.
That's great, man. What belt are you?
Purple.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. I just got my blue. So,
Congratulations, mate.
yeah, thanks. Same to you.
That's often the hardest milestone. It's persevering
Right.
past that blue. I think there's a lot of similarities in metaphors. Like one of the key things that I realized is that people give up on business too quickly. They hit a certain milestone and they go, okay, I've achieved that. And then the foot comes off the accelerator. The exact same thing happens in jiu-jitsu. Like there's
Right.
a famous saying that said, a black belt is just a white belt that didn't quit. And it's just one of these things. We've just got to persevere. And one of the most frustrating things in fitness businesses is the revolving door of clients that don't stick around. And I
Mhm.
think that there are a lot of people who do nail their marketing and they focus too much on it, but they actually don't focus on the most important part of their business. It's retaining their existing client base. Because if
Mhm.
we can hemorrhage that bleeding, we can maintain those clients, increase that lifetime customer value. It makes it so much easier to grow a studio. So, Jim, what have you done to make sure that you can maximize the retention rate of your client base? And I guess what's been pivotal for you in terms of making sure that your clients just aren't leaving?
Yeah, and that's a good point because I get on my managers all the time because they want to report, hey, I signed up a new person. Hey, we got 2 new members this week. But then I have to remind them about net client growth, right? So if we're signing up 5, but 5 are canceling, staying in place, we're in neutral. So I agree with you 100%. I think retention is key, and that just comes down to service delivery and customer service, customer experience. So the biggest thing that we do at Catalyst to retain clients is that when they come in, we do a full assessment and then we write a program for them. And then that program kind of guides it, allows them to kind of hop in between trainers. At the end of each program cycle, we bring the client in and we reassess. We do all the measurements again, and it holds them accountable to their goals, and it also holds us accountable to holding them to their goals, which is key. So, and then we do the whole thing. We talk about what they like, what they didn't like, anything they need to change. We kind of refocus them sometimes, or do some mindset stuff with them. But those reassessment sessions are key because they're touches. We're getting hard numbers, but we're also seeing where they are at, and if we need to make any course corrections, whether it be with mindset, with goals, with training, whatever it may be. So that is our biggest retention tool. Other than that, we do events. We haven't been able to do many lately because of COVID. So we'll do a lot of them online. And then we do a lot of charity stuff too. And we like to do charity stuff that we're personally involved in because then we're passionate about it and it's easier to get the clients involved. And so when the clients, like around the holidays is big for us. So we do a lot around Thanksgiving and Christmas. Then we get the clients behind that as well. At the end, we have one of our clients actually delivers it, and then we have all these pictures and videos and all of this stuff. And we did the same thing with the animal shelter too this year. And it's just kind of feel good, showing that we care about the community, we're giving back to the community, we're part of the community, and the clients like it. Though all of those little things go into retention.
Beautiful. It's just, there's really two things there. There's that momentum-based coaching where it's always that next milestone. Okay, cool. We've achieved
Right.
this. This is what we learned.
Hmm.
This is what we're going to do different. Here's the next milestone. And that sense
Hmm.
of community. I just, people overlook the value of having community, because
Hmm.
particularly when it's training. And look, I myself, it's a reason why I don't do well in the gym, is because I like that accountability. I'm a big believer in rising tides lifting all ships. And it's why I love jujitsu, because there's always the other person that you're rolling with that's
Hmm.
pushing you to that next level. If I do any training, it's always in a group environment, because there's always that person next to you that you're like, oh,
Yeah,
they're putting in a little bit of extra work. I've got to keep pace. And that
exactly.
sense of community and that camaraderie really makes a big difference in terms of achieving your goals.
And the thing I tell people all the time about jujitsu, like, why do you love jujitsu so much? And why do you talk about jujitsu? And then like the other day, my girlfriend and I were sitting on the couch and she had her feet across and I'm like playing with the ankle locks and all this stuff. So, but which is
I
kind of
love
weird, but
that.
anyway. But so I tell people all the time, if you roll with somebody for an hour, you will know them better than if you sat down and talked to them for three. You know how they handle adversity, how they react when it gets hard, how they react when they win, all of these things. There are a lot of character traits that come out when you roll with people. It's like going into battle with somebody. It's a bonding thing, right?
I agree with that completely. Some of my closest friendships have come from jiu-jitsu. In actual fact, my partner of 7 years, we met in Florianopolis in Brazil because I was there training jiu-jitsu. So jiu-jitsu has done a lot for
Oh,
my
you
life.
start training in Brazil. You went straight to the Mecca.
Exactly right, mate. You've
Hardcore, man. Yeah.
indoctrination by fire, as they say, Jim.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
mate, I'm keen to learn a little bit about this Fit University that you're putting together. I think it's a phenomenal concept. I think it's something that's really greatly needed in our space. So tell us a little bit about it, and where did it come from and what's it all about?
Well, it's really an extension of the podcast because I started the podcast to scratch my own itch, right? Because when I started the podcast, I was talking to Frank Nash and I said, I wish, because you know how when you come back from a seminar and your mind's just exploding with all of these ideas and possibilities and all these shiny new toys. And then I would get back and we'd have a staff meeting. I'd be like, okay, we're going to do this. And they're like, oh God, you went to another seminar. Here we go again,
That
So,
sounds too
but
familiar.
yeah. So I asked Frank, I said, man, I wish I could sit down with these people for like an hour or so and just pick their brain. And he said, you can. I said, I can? How? He's like, start a podcast. I said, well, I don't know how to start a podcast. He's like, fine, figure it out. So that's what I did. Figured it out. I started the podcast to scratch my own itch to interview these people because I wanted to learn. I wanted to know how to be a better business owner, better fitness business owner. And then that launched into, a better person and all of these other things. I started it to help trainers who don't have that business skill set to acquire that business skill set so that they can be more successful in the fitness industry because the fitness industry is full of what's the word I'm looking for? Charlatans, right?
Yeah.
From like, I can get you 1,000 leads in a weekend to the barrier to entry is really low. For about $20,000, you can open up a training studio. So every trainer, the natural outgrowth is you start at a place and then you don't like the way they're running it. You feel like you can run it better. So then you open up your own space and then you figure out it's not as easy as you thought.
Yeah.
So I created the podcast to help trainers get over that hurdle. I didn't want it to be just a cliff note. When you go to conferences and now virtual conferences, they give you the cliff notes and then they give the whole spiel. Then at the end, they say, if you want to find out more, go to so-and-so's.com, right? This is the textbook that's in the university. This isn't some fancy speech that Eric is doing. This is his 80 module training that you can train for yourself or your staff to become better, increase your closing rate for appointments booked.
Beautiful.
And it's 80 modules. He sells it for $225 a month. I'm going to be selling it for the first 25 members who sign up, founding member that sign up, get it for $97 a month.
Wow.
And that price will never increase as long as you maintain your membership. Now, if you're number 26, then you're paying 197, but that's still $100 cheaper than
Yeah.
Eric. Yeah, I think he's crazy, but I'm going to take advantage of it. So if you want to, you either learn how to increase your closing rate, because it is a skill, you got to remember that everything's a skill set, then you can pay $97 a month and you can learn, or you can train your staff for $97 a month to increase your closing rate. And the address is going to be fituniversityonline.com. And I have a book coming out along with the Fit University. It's called Masters in Fitness Business. And it's I handpicked 20 episodes, put it in a book, and it's more like a reference manual. I hired somebody to help me weave stories into it, because I think storytelling is the most powerful form of communication. So we weave stories in it, and we've got everybody in there. We've got the greats. We've got Thomas Plummer, Rick Mayo, Tim Lyons, Frank Nash. And I know I'm forgetting somebody. Then we have multiple club owners who are successful. We have franchise owners who are successful. We have single club owners who are successful. And then we have topic experts. Like there's Lisa Kuntz, whose last name now Adewusi, but she does a great job with mindset. And we worked with she's worked with our staff at Catalyst, and she's amazing. And so we're going to have some of her stuff in the university eventually, and her stories in the book. Her episode is in the book, and each chapter has a QR code so you can find the episode online.
Amazing.
Yeah, and so that's what we're doing, and that launches April 20th. And if you go to the website, you can get a portion of the book as a free ebook. And then if you like what you see, and it's like more like a reference guide, so it's not like a book you read front to back, kind of pick and choose, which I like. But if you want the full book, then you can purchase the full book as well. But part of that first 25 and get on that great deal, because Eric is just the first. There are going to be other people adding those educational modules. And just remember, it's not the fancy speeches they give at the seminars. It's the meat and potatoes of what they do that can make you more successful. And all of those will be in the university eventually, and you can get them access to all of them for that same price. So it's a great deal.
Awesome. We're going to include the links in the show notes. So guys, make sure you jump on that. Jim, you've had such an inspirational story. You're doing some amazing things in the space. So from everything we've spoken about today, if you had to summarize the top 3 actions that a fit pro, a gym owner needs to go and do off the back of listening to this podcast, what would be their top 3 actions?
Start now. George Patton said, imperfect plan executed today is better than a perfect plan tomorrow. So start now. Stop thinking about it. Stop dreaming about it. Get started now. And then beyond that, and then the next step, I would say, somebody told me once, gave me the advice, always be the dumbest person in the room. So that's what I always try to do. And I go in with that mindset. So I don't mind asking questions, even though I may feel like it's a dumb question. If I don't know something, I just ask, what does that mean? What do you do with that? How does that work? Because that's the way that you learn, right? Is you ask questions. So become a student and seek to become the dumbest person in the room. If you're in a room and you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. You're not going to grow. You may lord over everybody in that room, but you're not going to elevate your life. So I would say be a student. And then the last one is build the team. Nobody gets to the top alone. In order to build a team, you have to be a good leader, which is a skill set, which I had to learn. I was a terrible leader. I was a leader that nobody wanted to work for. This is my business. You're going to do it my way. I'm not going anywhere. If you want to work here, you're going to do it my way. And I had a terrible culture, had a lot of staff turnover. So I always tell people, for me to become a better leader, I had to become a better person. So it was a journey of self-discovery, and then that enabled me to become a better leader. And again, being a good leader is really about empowering people, like we talked about at the top of the show, empowering your staff.
I love that, mate. That's great advice. Jim, you've shared so much value today, mate. We're going to be including all the links down below. I appreciate you making the time. And really, guys, this is about taking action. This is about always learning. And this is about being a good leader. It's something that you need to learn. And we're not born with this stuff. Leaders aren't born, they're made. So it's been incredibly valuable, mate. And I'm looking forward to catching up when I can get over to the States, probably in 2022. And we can hit the mats, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to have you, man. And vice versa. If I ever come over to Australia, whereabouts in Australia are you?
We're based in Sydney, so you're more than welcome anytime.
Perfect. Good. Absolutely. I would love to get a roll in with you.
Fantastic.
Have you just kind of torture me.
We'll torture each other, my friend. People listening
Right.
like, this is getting weird, but that's people who do jiu-jitsu, they understand.
Yes, absolutely.
But I appreciate you making the time, guys. This has been another episode of the Enjoy the Journey podcast, and looking forward to catching you next time. Have a great day.